Coming up on Network Africa, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and other African leaders congratulate Donald Trump on winning the American presidential seat for a second time. Here in Africa, mixed reactions trail Donald Trump's victory at the U.S. elections. Thus, a sad time in Nigeria as the Chief of Army Staff General Taoreed Lagbaja dies at the age of 66. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. African leaders have been congratulating U.S. Republican candidate Donald Trump on his win in Tuesday's presidential elections. The presidents of Nigeria, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Eritrea, Somalia, Guinea-Bissau, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, and Togo have all sent in their congratulatory messages. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu says he looks forward to strengthening the ties between Nigeria and the United States amid the complex challenges and opportunities of the contemporary world. South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa also said he looks forward to continuing the close and mutually beneficial partnership between the US and South Africa across all domains of cooperation. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa also congratulated Mr. Trump on his X page, adding that the world needs more leaders who speak for the people and that Zimbabwe stands ready to work with Donald Trump and the American people. Meanwhile, residents in Senegal, Nigeria, and South Africa have mixed reactions to news of Mr. Trump making a political comeback. Some are optimistic, believing him to be a decisive leader. However, others are skeptical on how his win would play out globally. In Africa, commentators were quick to speculate that a Trump administration would take a transactional and practical approach. Others, on the other hand, point to the inconsistent nature of America's attitude, differing according to which side who won the presidency.
Trump is still the best option they have in that presidency now. If they want to elect any other person to be the president of USA, it's going to be Trump. Reason is that he has more idea of how to run those things. Though he may be someone that talks too much. Yes, it may be someone that talks too much that almost whatever he wants to do, he has been saying it. Instead of having some kind of hidden agenda, he don't have any hidden agenda. He wants to say everything he wants to do. He's just someone like that. But he's someone that wants to work.
And the reason why African like Trump is that Trump did not support this LGTB and what have you, and he's a principled man that's never sell his out and everything.
I think Trump is a good president for Americans. I believe in his wisdom.
I don't know. I think with finance and, currency-wise, it might affect it, but depends on how President Ramaphosa and how our government is able to work with them as well. So, yeah, I'm very iffy about it.
Well, let's discuss this further, the impact of Donald Trump's win in the United States on Africa and the several countries on the continent. Joining us now on the show is MD and Group Chief Economist, Research and International Cooperation, Yemi Kale. He is speaking to us from Johannesburg, South Africa. Alongside from Cape Town is the Director of Mining Modern Corporate Solutions, Peter Major. Thank you both so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, I'd like to begin with your reactions to Trump's election victory. And I'm asking both of you at this time if you were surprised that Donald Trump is making a political comeback. Let's begin with Mr.
Yes,
Peter Major.
I'm not surprised because it was actually a fairly close election when he lost to former President Joe Biden 4 years ago. And he's maintained his contacts. He's had 4 years to plan how he's going to get back in. And the Republicans have had 4 years of planning how they're going to get back in. So it was a close election 4 years ago. It was an even closer election 8 years ago against Hillary Clinton. So they've really had 8 years plus of strategizing how they're going to do it. And he's very good at pointing out the negatives that he's not responsible for, that somebody else is responsible for. And most of the accurate pollsters go on the states. And that's why you can see all the effort for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump. It was getting the swing states in favor. You know, it's very technical. You get the right states in your favor. It's almost irrespective of what the population wants. Get the right swing states. And there's only 5 or 6 states, you know, the swing states. A big state that has lots of votes, it's already on the Democratic side. You don't waste time with. You put all your time, money, and effort in the swing states. So this is a very calculated election.
Indeed.
With 2 parties.
Mr. Yemi,
not a surprise.
For you,
I think
Mr. Yemi.
Yes, I think, again, like he mentioned, it wasn't particularly surprising. The polls already indicated it was going to be a very close election. I think the Republicans got their strategy right. Last couple of months, they started concentrating on the swing states and getting their message out in that direction. And you could see that, even looking at the polls, you could see that gradually the momentum was moving in his favor towards the end. So it was not particularly surprising. Additionally, if you look at the economic environment in the U.S. is still struggling from the effects of the 2019 COVID pandemic. And it was so I guess the Republicans and Donald Trump had a lot of ammunition to use against the Democrats and played into the concerns that many Americans were feeling. So I don't think it was particularly surprising. It could have gone either way, but I believe that Donald Trump had the advantage, given the state of the U.S. economy, which many Americans were not too happy about. And also the fact that he got his strategy right, had a lot of time to plan it. And of course, he realized early and focused on the swing states, which we know, we have known for many, many years at the states that are going to determine who wins the election.
All right, let's now get to, why both of you are here on the program, the impact of this on Africa and, several countries on the continent. There are several issues: bilateral relations, foreign policy, trade, and security. Let's begin with security, Mr. Yemi Kale. How can a second Trump presidency, impact African countries in terms of him addressing threats from terrorist groups? We have several countries on the continent right now that are facing, insurgency. And this threatens not only Africa, but global stability.
Well, I think, first of all, if you're talking about threats to the United States, that's a different story. I think President Trump has always maintained his position is America first, and he's going to concentrate on what is more important for America. I think that as long as the threats have direct or indirect effect on America or American interests, he's going to act more swiftly and more decisively. He's not going to be held back by things that might hold other opponents back, things like considerations on political considerations of human rights and things of that nature. So I think it's going to be more decisive. I think those that seek to create problems will realize that it's not hampered by all these things that hamper other world leaders, other US presidents. So they will think clearly, carefully before they act, because they know that the current US president is one that is very decisive and will take action almost without actually even thinking it through. He's going to react very quickly to most of these things. So I think in that regard, it's going to create a situation where those that are pushing insecurity are going to think very carefully before they do certain things, because they expect that there will be swift reactions. That has a positive impact on general global security. But like I said, especially those that affect the US and US interests.
Well, Mr. Peter Major, let me give you the question on the China-Africa relations. How do you see Trump's position on China's influence, on Africa's economic landscape, particularly in terms of Chinese investments and infrastructural projects we've seen across the continent?
Yes, this may give Mr. Trump a little bit of a headache because he hasn't gone out of his way to make friends with Africa. He hasn't gone out of his way to make friends with China. He thinks that the states can do without either. And that would be a very strategic mistake, tactical and strategic for the United States, because they need Africa. The whole world needs Africa. China knows it, and China's in here. China's been working on Africa for 20 years, trying to ingratiate themselves with all the African countries. It spent a lot of time, a lot of money. And Mr. Trump likes to do things quick. He likes to shoot from his hip. He doesn't like to ponder issues very long. He likes to make snap decisions. He takes a very simplistic view of most matters, especially foreign matters. So as you pointed out, Mary, he'll say, I want to put the states first. And he still lives in the past like Mr. Putin. He wants to bring the states back to what he thinks it used to be. And he's not forward thinking like that. So South Africa, look, they've always been in a good position. They don't have to do too much, but they got to do a better sales job if they want the states on their side.
I apologize for, cutting you short, but I would like to inform our viewers on the DSTV platform of the Akwa Ibom State commissioning of the 10.5 kilometer impact and in Ikot Ekekara Road. We'll go live to that event, but we'll continue Network Africa on our other platforms. Oh, gentlemen, I'm back with you. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter. I'd like you to quickly finish your thoughts on what the question was about China-Africa relations and how, Trump might, impact this.
Look, China has strong relations with South Africa and vice versa. South Africa has weakened its relations with the States. Now they've got a president who almost doesn't care. So if South Africa still thinks they can use the United States and get things out of them, they're going to have to make a double effort from what they've made the last 20 years. And that may be a bridge too far.
All right, then let's quickly go to the question on African Growth and Opportunity Act. That's the AGOA Act. I want to ask both of you if you foresee any shift in this. It came into being in the year 2000, and it will be marking its 25th anniversary in 2025, and also a reauthorization from U.S. Congress. Do you see a reauthorization on this, and how, could this assist sub-Saharan African countries?
Maybe I should go first. I think there would be. It's not really. It is going to be signed into law. I think that's going to happen. It's not. That's not the issue. It's the content that I think they're going to have an issue with. And the best way to understand what Trump might do next is you can't really predict that, but just to look at what he did when he was previously president and some of the statements he's made. Trump's foreign policy approach towards Africa, if you look at history, was marked by reduced diplomatic engagement and a pivot towards countering China's influence in the region. That is America First stance. If you check the data, led to cuts in foreign aid to Africa, emphasis on bilateral over multilateral relations, which results in diminished U.S. involvement across Africa. This reduced engagement created opportunities for other global powers, like we mentioned, China, to actually strengthen their foothold in the continent. So if you check trade data during Trump's when Trump was last president, you see that there was a significant decrease in trade with Africa, particularly imports, and that was replaced by increasing imports and export trade from other countries. I think that is a pattern where he wants a situation where there's a trade surplus with every country in the world. It's not actually realistic, and that's going to apply to Africa. He's only going to engage in Africa where he feels that there's a benefit to America first, and not necessarily to the continent. So I think there's going to be a review of AGOA, ensuring that only American interests are met. And that's actually that's not the point of AGOA. AGOA was actually meant to, yes, support the US economy, but at the same time, get a better deal for Africa. Trump's foreign policy is not about getting a better deal for any other country. It's not necessarily about supporting any other country. It's America first. So I think, yes, AGOA will be completed, but I believe that it might be substantial. It might be significantly watered down.
All right.
And it might not be in the interest of the continent.
All right, then. Very quickly, Mr. Peter Major, your thoughts.
Well, remember what happened last time when this came up for renewal under the previous Trump administration. He wouldn't meet with South Africa. He had his representative meet. She held up a piece of paper. She says, this is a voting record of the United Nations. You see where South Africa votes on our side. They are way below China and Russia. China and Russia are not our best friends, and they vote for us more often than you do. So right now, South Africa has to do one hell of a sales job. They have to do more than talk. They have to show Mr. Trump and his administration how it benefits the United States to renew this AGOA. Otherwise, as I said, he's brash, he's simplistic, he doesn't always think things through. He shoots from the hip. So South Africa really has to change the way they approach this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Major, the Director of Mining Modern Corporate Solutions, and Mr. Yemi Kale, MD and Group Chief Economist at the Research and International Corporation. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the program. The American election continues to intrigue people around the world. And for those in Nigeria, character and policies of the contestants play a huge role. Well, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs recently held a special roundtable to discuss the future of America-Nigeria relations. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, has more.
They are 2 p.m. The program kicks off with the Director General of the Institute, Professor Ehosa Osaye, setting the tone for the event, saying democracy is on trial and needs to be salvaged by the American polls.
What's our stake in American politics? I'm sure that you all have your definitions and constructions of what the stakes will be. But at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, we thought we should organize this roundtable so that we can begin to talk about the kinds of things that we expect to see in America. We want an America that is responsive to Nigeria and to Africa and the global South. We want an America that, would no longer just simply say, that Africa or Nigeria is a footnote or an endnote. We want to put Nigeria, in the mainstream of what we are doing.
A panel of experts in political and international relations answer questions ranging from the posture of American foreign policy for Nigeria and Africa under a new administration to the responsibility of the Nigerian government in positioning herself as a strategic partner to the United States.
Let us look beyond the party system. Let us look beyond the candidates and electoral process system. How can we develop in our society guardrails that will make us take an active part in politics and hold our political leaders accountable, so that you don't have a situation where you have a general election in this country and leading candidates refuse to appear before us to explain what they want us to do.
I'm not so sure that Trump will be good for us. I'm not so sure that Harris will be great for us. But in terms of the greater good of the world, I think we may have a politician that is a bit institutionally minded, not somebody who does things for himself, who has dictatorial intentions, or who has preference for dictatorships.
Discussions become more passionate after public policy analyst Magnus Onyibe highlights the achievements of a Trump presidency.
In the 4 years that Trump was there, Russia did not attack Ukraine. They had taken Crimea. As soon as Trump left and Biden came, Russia attacked, and they are still attacking till this date. There's a belief that Russia attacks U.S. interests when they think that they have a weak leader. So they see Biden as a weak leader. Trump's strategy is different from the traditional strategies that other people adopt. And the world doesn't want to embrace it, or half of the world doesn't want to embrace it. Because tomorrow, anything we're saying about Trump, 50% of Americans are still backing Trump.
Immigration has been a hot topic in the US. It always will be. And we don't need any lectures on where Donald Trump stands on that. It's very clear. He's been anti-immigration for a very long time. I mean, in 2016, when he got there, in his first week, he banned immigration from predominantly Muslim countries in Africa and Asia without apologies. It took a lot of litigation for him to clamber down. Okay, so we need to understand that. His slogan remains, make America great again. In practice, that means anti-immigration, is cutting down on aid for African countries and de-emphasizing the relationship between the US and Africa and Nigeria, in fact.
This is the first time the NIA has organized a discussion at a unique time in global politics. It hopes to delve more intently into Nigeria-US relations after the election. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
Away from the U.S. elections, a sad time here in Nigeria. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja is dead. President Bola Tinubu announced the sad news in a press statement, informing the country that the former Chief of Army Staff died on Tuesday night in Lagos after a period of illness at the age of 56. Lieutenant General Lagbaja was appointed Chief of Army Staff on June 19, 2023 by President Tinubu. He began his military career when he enrolled in the Nigerian Defense Academy back in 1987. He is survived by his beloved wife, Maria, and their 2 children. President Tinubu has expressed his heartfelt condolences to the family and the Nigerian Armed Forces during this difficult time. The announcement of the passing of Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja comes a day after President Tinubu promoted the acting Chief of Army Staff, Major General Olufemi Oluyede, to the rank of Lieutenant General. We move on to Mozambique, where the president is urging an end to protests against recent election results. Felipe Nyusi warns that the protests will only result in destroying the country and its infrastructure. According to medical associations, more than a dozen people have been killed and injured in clashes. Crowds took to the streets of Maputo on Tuesday, denouncing police violence. Police have used tear gas and gunfire during the protests, which the Interior Minister has argued was necessary to restore public order when demonstrations turned violent. But the Defense Minister is also suggesting that the military may be deployed to put an end to the unrest. Earlier in October, the country's Electoral Commission announced that the ruling party Frelimo had come out on top in the October 9th election, increasing its 49-year stint in power. Opposition candidates and observers alleged that the vote was rigged, and one of the parties, Podemos, had lodged an appeal to the Constitutional Council against the results. South Africa has closed one of its busiest border crosses with Mozambique following violent post-electoral protests in the neighboring country. The protests have led to deadly clashes in several cities following last month's disputed election as won by Mozambique's ruling Frelimo party. Authorities say there are reports of vehicles being torched on the Mozambican side of the Lembombo port of entry, and due to these security incidents and in the interest of public safety, the port has been temporarily closed until further notice. Lembombo is one of the 4 busiest land ports in southern Africa. It's about 110 kilometers from Mozambique's capital, Maputo, and about 440 kilometers from South Africa's capital, Pretoria. We're still in South Africa, where the country has entered into an agreement with Britain to boost trade and defense cooperation. This was during a visit by the British Foreign Secretary David Lammy. South Africa is already Britain's biggest trading partner on the African continent, and the UK is among the top 5 destinations for South African exports that includes precious metals, cars, and agricultural products. According to South African Revenue Service data, bilateral trade between the two countries totaled about 133 billion rand, approximately $7.62 billion last year. On defense, the two countries also committed to deepen their cooperation on counter-terrorism and also discussed their mutual goals for a just energy transition.
Today, we mark a renewed chapter in the UK-South Africa partnership built on our shared commitment to growth, to prosperity, and a future that works for all of our citizens. And we've committed to a UK-South Africa growth plan that will drive economic development and deepen our trade and investment ties, creating more opportunities for businesses and communities in both the UK and, of course, South Africa. I'm pleased that today we've agreed to deepen our collaboration on defence and security through defence staff talks and greater collaboration on counter-terrorism particularly.
I am pleased that we have reaffirmed the importance and the strength of our bilateral trade and investment relationship, and that we have reiterated our resolve to continue working together to remove obstacles to bilateral and regional trade and investment.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde. Have a lovely day.